This Kirblog is all new, and it's on I Choose You, the new movie review. I choose you. That was beautiful, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely.
You're so special. You don't get one of the anime openings. You get the movie ending. That's how epic this is, truly. Well, welcome everybody. So if my cunning plan goes correctly and there's no technical hitches or people canceling on me. This is after the surprisingly third annual Pokecember has already begun. Hopefully by this point, I've started the Pokemon Fire Red playthrough with Casey and folks. But nonetheless, as it turns out, thanks to that, I actually have enough material to fill most of the month with Pokemon-related Kirblogs. And also, we had enough things in the Pokemon fandom and everything to actually fill up a month worth of doing stuff. But nonetheless... So this is one I teased a little bit about doing is I wanted to do a review of the quite a big landmark in the Pokemon animation history, the 20th movie. There have been 20 of these in the span of our lifetimes. Perhaps not for all of you listening, but certainly in mine. I'm joined by a first-time guest to Kirblogs, not first time to the channel because she's been on many streams with me. But would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi. I'm Amy, a.k.a. ZeroIncorporated. So you may or may not know me. I'm gonna go with may not.
I would go with may if you read the description of most Kirblogs from the last several years because Amy has bailed my ass out of a jam many times. Often now I'm just like, I can't export a Kirblog that's longer than 20 minutes because Swivel doesn't let me do that. And then I just pass it to her and she fixes everything.
Yes,
so.
many Kirblogs.
Yes.
And I'm finally on one of them.
Yes, after all this time. And because you've moved to California, you're actually here in IRL with me on this one. So Amy's a big Pokemon aficionado, as am I. So we went to go see the movie. Was it already like almost a month ago now? What day was it like the 19th or something of November?
Maybe.
It was a good few weeks. It was almost a month ago. So we're a little already, behind the times on this. Obviously, this is, we've missed the. Although I guess I can be happy about that because we're past the wave of. I put gigantic quotation marks on controversy about the movie. A certain clip that was probably making the rounds on every orifice of social media, and we'll get to that. So we went to go see it with Mike Lucas and Steve Yurko, and they have not followed the animated Pokemon stuff in a very long time. I think Mike has seen maybe a little bit of Sun and Moon, but other than that, they haven't watched the show in a long time. But you have followed the series for, I think even longer and more consistently than I have, actually.
Well, for games, I've played since Red and Blue,
of course,
so I'm a very long-time fan, and I watched Pokemon X and Y, the anime. So, I mean...
all the way through on Netflix.
Yes, all the way.
But you'd seen a lot of the ones before that, too, because I fell out a little bit.
I've seen some of Diamond and Pearl. I didn't really watch Black and White.
Oh, okay, I thought you'd seen that.
And, of course, when I was a youngin', I watched a lot of the first seasons.
Yeah, of course. So she's about as familiar with a lot of the anime stuff. I tuned out here and there, of course. I missed some of the Battle Frontier stuff, a lot of the Diamond and Pearl, and I saw most of Black and White, all of X and Y, and now I'm starting to I need to catch up on Sun and Moon. I'm falling behind a little bit on, but nonetheless, that's our general background. So this was of course a big deal. There was I guess even not counting the thing that everybody's been making a big deal about after the movie came out. And I don't want to dwell too much on this, but of course, a lot of people were kind of pitching a fit about just certain things with this movie before even seeing it in regards to the fact that, of course, Misty and Brock were not the fellow traveling partners in this film. I don't want to put too much emphasis on that. We will probably talk a little bit about, just the inherent differences and everything. But to start off with, so we're just kind of going to go through the majority of the movie's plot and just kind of cover the different parts. So the first, I would say about 15-ish minutes of the movie are basically a fully reanimated version of episode 1, or a version of episode 1 with the current animation quality, I would say. The movies have always been very, very nice looking.
I would say this has been the best so far.
It was visually?
Yeah, animation for this movie was really, really good. And
I really like how the colors were kind of a little bit more on like the faded side, but I liked that kind of because usually the movies in the show are very like vibrant and like very in your face, but there was something almost kind of like artsy about this one in terms of its visuals.
Yeah, I feel like you could tell they took a lot of care into it because it's the 20th anniversary movie, and I feel like they really wanted to make it epic.
Yeah.
And I feel like you get that sense like right in the beginning of the movie with that scene with like Blastoise against Venusaur.
Oh, which
the trainer
little
battles.
fun cameo to what the hell were their names? Nisha and Corey, not spelled like my character Corey, but those two from Pokemon the first movie, which was a little fun throwback. Yeah, it was a very pretty faithful. In fact, even I give some major credit to Carter Cathcart, the writer and current voice of Meowth and James and tons of creatures and stuff on the series. He's been the writer for a long time. There were a lot of scenes that were almost word for word episode 1, which he was on as Gary, and ironically, Gary was not really in this. No, he was.
You saw like his back.
His back, which similarly is what happened with him in also the first movie. Does he get residuals for that? Is that how that works? That was cool. And major shout outs and credit to Carter for doing a great job on that. And yeah, I mean, it was certainly like I was already like invested from just like from the semi nostalgic pandery like. It's the first episode, remember? For like, I guess the audience that we are, I was certainly into that. How did you feel about like that whole kind of opening sequence, more or less?
I mean, it was alright. I mean, it was basically the first episode, so I wouldn't say I didn't feel like it was anything special, but it was just nice to rewatch it in really nice animation.
Sure.
So I don't have any complaints.
Yeah. It's interesting too. This is coming to me because in just seeing some bits of we watched the Kanto, the first of the 2 Kanto episodes in the Sun and Moon anime that are airing right now in the U.S. and reminded of how like kooky and fun the animation style in the Sun and Moon anime is, where it's very unique. This was a little bit more along like I think like the standard of how the character designs and everything has looked for Pokemon usually, so it was a little bit more harkening back to that style, which I think worked for this comparatively. Not that I don't like how Sun and Moon looks. So shortly after that, we get introduced to the characters that I guess without people even knowing anything about them, the internet just seems to detest because they're not Brock and Misty. We had Verity was the girl and Sorrel was the boy. And interestingly, when I first heard about them, I think from one of the trailers that had come out, my immediate thought, because Verity has the penguin,
Piplup?
Piplup, thank you. Wow, Michelle would kill me. And Sorrel has a Lucario. I thought, oh, look at them promoting the inevitable Diamond and Pearl remake at some point. Not so much, I guess. Although, well, I guess that's yet to be seen.
I mean, those 2 are basically the mascots of that generation.
Yeah.
So,
well, how did you feel about our exclusive to this movie, I presume, new traveling partners? I guess the quote unquote Brock and Misty stand-ins, as it were.
well, I like the girl better than the boy. The boy was kind of flat and uninteresting. What was he? He wanted to be a doctor?
I believe he was trained to be a Pokemon doctor.
I thought the girl's backstory was a little interesting because at one point it was hinted that she may be related to Cynthia.
Right.
And I was kind of like, oh, that's neato.
Who is the Sinnoh champion?
Yes.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Because she's from Sinnoh, right? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. Both of them were from Sinnoh, I think.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. See, interestingly, and this is a little off topic, but I feel this point is worth bringing up. When I look back on, I know this is going to sound like blasphemy, but I don't give a shit. When I look back on season 1, I actually do find it weird and intriguing as to why Misty and Brock were chosen to be the traveling partners for Ash in the show to begin with, because like we just kind of accepted it as, oh sure, whatever, but like when you really think about it, like in comparison to the games happening, it's like, why would the first 2 gym leaders just happen to join Ash because of... I mean, like, Misty, they build a whole, like, thing out of it, but, like, Brock literally is just like, hey, Ash, can I just come with you now? And it's like, okay. Like, because when in retrospect, I see that and I think, well, wouldn't it make more sense for it to be like other trainers, like what they did in a lot of the later series? And you know, I mean, like Black and White had Silent and Iris, and then X and Y had Clement, which I mean, he clearly was like designed to also be a character in the anime, like extensively with the way that they set him up. But I don't know, like I guess this was interesting for me, and I went in with an open mind because I thought, oh, it would be cool to see like how the Generation 1 story would go with just Ash and other trainer characters, like regular ones, like not gym leaders, because like Pokemon Adventures, the manga did that, and other kind of interpretations of the Gen 1 stuff. I like them okay. Sorrel, I feel like a thing that kind of brought, and this is going to be a little mean, I don't know the actor, and I'm sure he'll never hear this. I feel his voice was a little distracting. He sounded very like, hello, it's me, I'm 10 years old. And I'm like, sure. The Verity was good. I liked her kind of. She kind of had that like Misty-esque spunk to her and stuff.
She was fun.
She was nice, and I was also intrigued by. Actually, you know what? I was intrigued by her backstory. Sorrel, even though he wasn't super like entertaining like compared to her, I was really shocked by his backstory, because I guess let's get into transitioning to that. There's some dark shit in this movie. Like,
oh, that's right.
Yeah. Sorrel's backstory, which, I mean, we're going into spoiler territory now here, so if you haven't seen the movie or in theaters or hadn't caught it when it was on Disney XD for a little bit, Sorrel's backstory with the Luxray dying.
That, I teared up at that. That was...
There were a lot of moments. There were a lot of moments like that were pretty tear-inducing, but that one just also caught me off guard because it was both of like, oh, that's so sad, and also, oh my god, what is this really happening in this Pokemon movie?
It's not like the scene ends and it's implied that Luxray passed away. It was like tearing a crying child away from its beloved pet that is a frozen corpse. And like that's like, wow.
And it's really like dramatic. Like, I mean, it's also it's only like kind of like you want to awkwardly laugh just because it's like, this is still Pokemon, right? It's not, because I mean, like, there's been implications of like Pokemon that I mean, even before that, they tell the story of Ho-Oh, which I was not expecting any Gold and Silver stuff, but they like Entei had a little cameo in the first act, which was also a kind of a neat little like movie 3 throwback, I guess. And they explicitly go into the general story of how Ho-Oh and the legendary beasts.
Yes.
Like that whole trio, and they make no bones about saying like they were revived from 3 Pokemon that died in the fire of that tower. Mm-hmm. So it's not like there hasn't ever been like, you know, the concept of death ever been in the anime at all. But this was just a very like, oh no, poor guy. I guess on the note of new characters, also we had Cross, our semi-combination of like Gary and also kind of Damien, because in this version of the universe he had Charmander, and Ash's Charmander that quickly evolves and doesn't act like an asshole to him this time. Comes from him. What did you think of him?
He was just the typical rival who doesn't care about Pokemon and
except for winning with them.
Yeah,
He doesn't have any. He doesn't get any brownie points for having a Lycanroc.
No, you have to earn a Lycanroc. You don't just skate by with just basic. I just didn't like him that much, and he just aggravated me a lot. But I guess he was a good foil to Ash because he clearly didn't care about his Pokemon, but Ash did, and that was kind of the whole point of the movie. Mm-hmm. They're my friends. I care about them. And that's why I'm the rainbow hero. And and what was the plot of the movie again with the rainbow hero?
Sure. Well, let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
So I mean, not to like go to our final thoughts already, but overall we liked the movie. Mm-hmm. There were definitely some things about it that I feel that were on the weak side. Sadly, that kind of subplot was one of the weaker parts I felt. Mm-hmm. This whole thing with like it had the making of something that was like, oh, okay, this is kind of neat, but it seemed like it kind of amounted to like, it didn't really matter that much. Like it was almost just like overcomplicating, just like, because like, Ash chasing after Ho-Oh, which was this symbolism of, inspiring him and everything, was interesting. But this whole kind of thing, and then like the old guy with the trainer red hat, I forget his Bunchy. Mike Pollock character, him. He was like entertaining and everything, but his whole bit with that, and then this shit with the rainbow wing and the rainbow hero or whatever, and even I hate to say it too, but the stuff with Marshadow.
Oh, that was my biggest problem with the movie was Marshadow.
You want to elaborate?
Basically, just I did not understand what Marshall's point was. It was very confusing.
You mean other than to provide, like, go to Toys R Us and download him?
Yeah, because it's like they make it sound like, oh, he's a protector of the ring. He seals away the evil or darkness or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then at the end, Marshadow suddenly turns evil and then abuses the wing and attacks everyone. And I'm like, what? Isn't he supposed to be a good guy?
He has, and I mean, he seemed like he was supposed to be this chaotic neutral force that was like affected directly by what was happening with the other characters, with like Cross like corrupts him by being a dick or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: when I went into seeing this movie, the other bit of open-mindedness that I had about it, that like I was also kind of laughing at people who were like, I just thought it was going to be a straight-up adaptation of season 1. I'm like, no, they wouldn't do that because they want you to buy new stuff that has to do with the current thing that's happening. So obviously there's going to be a new Pokemon or 2 or 3 or whatever. They had plenty of Sun and Moon and X and Y and other, non-Gen 1 stuff in the movie all over the place anyway. So Marshadow being in there, and I liked the concept of him being this chaotic neutral kind of force, but I feel like because of the Rainbow Wing, like Rainbow Hero shit kind of bogging it down, I feel like what he could have been used for was a little too like overly complicated and didn't ultimately end up being that important, other than like he got kind of a cool fight scene, I guess. But even then, that still wasn't enough to be like, I don't mind you being here, but you're not doing much for this otherwise.
They just kind of just failed to explain it. I can't remember. Did they actually say if it was because of Cross, like he corrupted the wing, and then that in turn corrupted Marshadow? Because it's like, are we supposed to just assume, or are you actually going to explain it?
I think that was meant to be what it was. Well, I mean, because before that, and let's talk about this scene because this was bizarre as well and interesting. The foreshadowing we got from that was another pretty, not dark but dire moment with Ash kind of like throwing everything away in a fit of rage. In something that I think actually, if I'm remembering right, you pointed this out that, and I will give a little bit of credit to Cross as a kind of a representation of this, of what real Pokemon, Pokemon players tend to act like sometimes. Where like, when you're I mean, we've probably all been this because we're playing Ultra right now, when like you get frustrated and you're just like, God damn it, why is this Pokemon so useless? If only I got this one, it would have been better. And like that just like going to that place immediately and just like not caring about them as individuals or whatever, which granted they're imaginary still, but I felt that Cross kind of represented that. And I think you pointed out when Ash has this moment after he loses to him in a battle with, I think, his Charmeleon, and he has that it was with Pikachu, and he's like, if Charmeleon fought him, he would have won, or something like that. Like, that was a very, like, we do that. Like, people that just play the games have that kind of shitty reaction all the time, because it's just like, oh, whatever, grr, I didn't win kind of thing, So I thought that was actually kind of real for the movie to do, and it was interesting in that to me, I interpreted it as, like, almost kind of a commentary on like people who I guess like take Pokemon like as a whole for granted,
Yeah, I don't think I was the one who pointed that out though.
No?
I don't remember, but I totally agree with that. That is a really good point.
You should have just taken credit for it the whole time. I feel like I remember you saying like you commenting something about Ash's reaction in that scene. But of course after that, what I was saying about the foreshadowing was the bit with Marshadow entering into Ash's dreams and giving him this very bizarre dream sequence, this kind of like faded out sequence of Ash in a world without Pokemon. That stood out a lot because there's never been anything else quite like that scene that I can recall in the show or any other movies at any point. Mm-hmm. And I know that maybe kind of it's kind of easy to joke about, like, can you imagine a world without Pokemon? But like, and also coming in tune with the fact that like Ash was like, he was taking Pikachu for granted and everything. It was kind of cool. It was very almost like by itself. It was almost like a little weird like art piece, like just that sequence by itself. What did you think of that?
I thought it was very weird. Honestly, I probably could have done without it because I didn't feel like it really fit in. Other than I was kind of confused why Marshadow, like he caused the nightmare, right, or something.
Yeah.
Like, was he trying to help or was he trying to like just corrupt him further? And yeah, but I could understand why they put that in for this kind of movie. It's it's celebrating Pokemon. Like imagine a world without Pokemon and how much it would suck for Ash, and he has to go back and find Pikachu and be with him forever.
I saw it as almost like a sense of judgment in that like, okay, he's having the so-called rainbow hero is having a moment of doubt at the moment, but
and like he's taking his Pokemon for granted,
yeah,
not appreciating them.
Yeah, but seeing like how he reacted in that like kind of AU quick sequence or whatever was a sense of like, well, like how would you react? And the fact that he was the way he was in that moment made him be like, okay, no, this isn't me. This isn't what I would do. I thought it was interesting. It was definitely very strange because once I saw the cars on the fucking what's it called, the poster, I was like, something's not right. Oh, also how Agatha had a little cameo. Did you notice that?
Yeah, she was the teacher.
Yeah. Well, so we've talked about a lot of bits so far, and sequences or characters that you thought were not that great, sequences you didn't think that great. Well, Amy, what were some things about this movie that you enjoyed other than the animation?
Well, I really enjoyed the action scenes. I thought they did good with the emotional scenes too, like especially with Butterfree's goodbye.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
That I still cried at that. Like,
everybody does.
Yeah, and
everybody cried at that episode. And don't lie if you didn't.
Yeah, I mean, overall this movie was enjoyable. Like, I know I've had some issue with some things, but I would totally see it again. And I think just if you enjoyed the Pokemon anime, you would like this movie.
Yeah.
It's just nice. It's wholesome. The ending is pretty epic. It's just fun.
Yeah.
It's Pokemon.
It is. That's true. I hear.
Yeah.
I hear it's a movie about Pokemon.
Yeah.
I hear it has them in it.
And it has some really cool scenes, like the whole Entei scene. I think that was probably my favorite part because
the Entei battle.
Yeah, when the trainer comes in with the injured Vaporeon in the Pokemon Center, and then all the rest of the trainers go like, "Oh, I want to catch Entei. He's in this area now."
That was another true to life Pokemon fandom type of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, especially even with Go right now too, where it's like we got to go on this raid and catch Entei like right now.
But before he like hops off to the next area.
Yeah. It felt very true to not just like the series and that first season, but also it felt, if anything, it actually felt truer to the games than the first season of the show ever did. Because I mean, like the show obviously takes its liberties compared to the video games in general, but season 1 is so, and like a lot of people would always complain when they look back on season 1, like, oh, like it's so different from the games. I like the games better, and like I feel like that's another kind of thing in favor of this, is that like if you are a bigger fan of like the rules of the world in the video games compared to like the logic of the anime, and especially in the early episodes, then this kind of like gives a little bit more logic to it in that sense. Should we've already gone over 20 minutes. Should we talk about the scene?
Yes, I think we should.
Okay.
I can tell you've just been dying to talk about it.
I mean, I haven't been, but I feel like we should because every comment's going to go into it. You start. How did you feel about Pikachu in that moment?
When he says those beautiful words to Ash.
Yes, those beautiful, beautiful words that he didn't actually speak, but everybody seems to just be, quickly assessing that, like, oh, he talks now. And I'm like, no, guys, fucking, if you saw the movie, you would know. That frustrates me, that the way that happens. Not in the movie. I mean, like, everybody's, I think, unfair response to it, but I don't want to get to it, though. How did you feel about the scene in general?
I did not think it was terrible. I probably would have really liked it if I heard the original actress speak for Pikachu. Yeah. It's kind of like, you know what's coming, like, you hear it, and it's like,
yeah.
But it's like, I didn't think it was stupid. I didn't think it was a bad idea. I actually thought it was a neat idea. I mean, where this one-time movie, this special 20th anniversary, I feel like that's like the only time that it's appropriate for Pikachu to say something to Ash in a very emotional moment. And I don't see what the issue is.
Right.
I thought it was fine.
So we've had quote unquote talking Pikachu in other bits of animation. There's been the Mystery Dungeon like short movies and the commercials and things like that. There's been stuff here and there. This was different, obviously.
Yes.
I remember my exact thought when it happened. I thought that it was very moving. Like in its context, the way that it is actually meant to be seen, and not out of context on some fucking douchebag's uploaded clip on Twitter. Thank you very much. Sorry, it pisses me off. In its context, I think it's very moving. It's very impactful. The problem is, and you were talking a little bit about this, it does not have the exact same impact in basically any language but Japanese, because it's not a.k.a. Otani. Pikachu, obviously, in virtually every other language dub of Pokemon and the games and the show and everything, it's always the same person. So, and even if I was a little kid watching this, my brain would still have that instant disconnect of like, that's not the same person talking. Like, it's very clearly, and I had found out actually from the director that Kate Bristol, who voiced Pikachu, and she's been in other characters in the show, she was like Valerie and some other characters. She had played Pikachu in something else before, I think one of those Mystery Dungeon things. So she had done it, and I'm like, okay, that makes sense. It's hard because of just that inherent disconnect. Mm-hmm. But that said, I think, I feel like I shouldn't even need to emphasize this so much because, again, if you see the movie, you would know this. It's not, and then Pikachu just magically starts talking. It's clearly they're having a near-death experience, and in this exact moment, their bond is so incredibly strong and real and immense that Ash can understand on some level what Pikachu is actually saying to him, and not just like, oh, I kind of get it because I have a connection with him. Like, no, I feel like I can actually understand what he's saying to me. Mm-hmm. Like, that's clearly to me, when you see it in context, what it's supposed to be. So I love it. I think it was super appropriate for the 20th movie. I do feel very bad for every other actress that wasn't the original Japanese that had to do that scene because of just how inherently tricky it is to just get that to work anyway. I actually would be really curious to see what kids' reaction, like kids that aren't jaded and don't know the behind the scenes, whatever the fuck to this, what they would think of that. But I mean, they're not the ones complaining about it on the internet, so what do they know? Also, the whole scene after that where Pikachu goes like fucking berserk and screaming and electrocuting everything was pretty rad. So.
Yeah, that tore up my heart a bit.
Yeah. Those were all some big teary scenes. I mean, sorry, go ahead.
I wasn't saying anything.
Oh, never mind.
Keep going.
The fact that like I teared up like 4 times like by the end of this, I mean, like knowing full well like this has a lot of weird stuff to it and it's not exactly what everybody across the world wanted or whatever, like it still very emotionally like affected me, and I can't deny it because that's what my raw reaction was to it, So I don't know. I personally felt like the whole experience of it was very true to like what it, and actually even the biggest thing of all that I loved about it was Ash's response to like, why do you do this? Like, why do you care? Why do you bother going on this journey? Why do you bother not trying to catch them all? Why do you bother with all of this and everything? Why? If anything, I feel like it's the ultimate justification for every time I have a fucking argument with somebody about how Ash is not a bad character, even though the internet is convinced of that. Because his thing of just like, I just want to meet as many of them as possible because I love them and I want them all to be my friends. And like, that's like the most purely innocent, like, the crux of the heart of Pokemon as a franchise, like what it's supposed to be all about, like embodied in one thing, and Ash fucking said it. The dumb character that everybody hates because he doesn't win the goddamn league said it, and it was perfect and beautiful, and I agree with it, goddamn it. So there, I don't know. I'm emotional. I'm clearly completely unbiased in my review of this. I don't know. Do you have any other closing thoughts on this experience?
I did kind of want to bring up the Ash's death and revival thing.
Okay.
I thought that was silly, and if someone could explain to me in the comments, like, are we supposed to assume that Ho-Oh just revived him, which I assume was the case, but God, they didn't explain that.
I have noticed since the first one, because I've seen almost every Pokemon movie, I have noticed that there is almost always, in every Pokemon movie just about, there's some, I almost want to say like Ghibli or Ghibli-esque, like weird, ethereal, vague Japanese storytelling style thing that just happens, and then suddenly things happens, and then it's like, oh, okay, and then we just accept that that's how it is now, and you know.
But they could have easily just said, oh, it's the power of Ho-Oh, because it would have made sense. That's exactly what Ho-Oh does. They talked about it through the movie.
And he's a phoenix, yeah.
And, you know, it's like, why didn't they do that?
Yeah.
It just made the whole scene seem silly, especially after all that emotional stuff. And I'm just watching it like, okay.
We used to run like this all the time. The fucking catchphrase of the film. This is worth pointing out is everybody was wrong. Misty and Brock were in the movie.
Oh, that's right.
Everybody was technically in the movie.
Of course.
In the fucking ending credits. I just couldn't help but laugh at that because I loved, like, I was technically right, everybody, and guess what? But there was one more thing. I did like the little cameo with Erica. I kind of wish that instead of Erica, it was Lieutenant Surge, because I think it would have been cool is if they were going to show a gym leader battle between Ash and one of the other characters from that generation. I think it would have been cool if it was Lieutenant Surge to show him beating Raichu, you know?
You know, I can see why they did not go with that, because then they would have to kind of explain that whole scene. Like, they probably just didn't have the time. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was a very short scene. Yeah. It was just showing him beat a gym leader, and if they had the whole Lieutenant Surge thing, then it would have been... They didn't have the time.
It didn't have to be like that entire like episode.
No, but like obviously it's Pikachu against its evolution, and it's against Lieutenant Surge, who's a total d-bag, and and Ash has to deal with that.
Man, why didn't Lieutenant Surge join Ash after Misty and Brock did? After he was, okay, baby, I'm gonna go with you on your Pokemon journey. It's like, you're like 40. Go away, please, before I call the authorities. Oh my god. Yeah, I guess. But okay. Who is this movie for? Who will enjoy this movie? Do you think?
Children. Okay. I think anyone who likes the Pokemon anime, who watches it, and anyone who likes the franchise and has an open mind.
Okay.
And it's not set in all the whole my childhood and just it's just a nice movie.
Yeah.
It's just that.
I think I agree. I think that definitely, if you did grow up with a certain mindset of what like early days of Pokemon are, I mean, even if you do, like, there is plenty of fan service in there. There's tons and tons of moments that are very clearly like to the people that grew up with it since the beginning, Yeah. And even if they didn't, because I mean, Pokemon Season 1 is available on like every fucking method in existence by this point. Buy the Blu-ray, now available. But this is not a paid advertisement. I don't know. I mean, I think that it does require a certain level of open-mindedness, but I really truly feel that if you go in with that bit of open-mindedness to it, there's a lot of things in this movie that you do have to just, if you experience it for yourself, and you have that like almost kind of childlike, like, oh man, like Pokemon is just so great, and it represents so much in this thing about bonding and love of animals and friendship and stuff, and competitive spirit and trying your best, all of like it really does, I think, embody like all of the core things about Pokemon that it's always been about since the beginning in one film, and I don't think you need to have all this like you have to have been a Gen 1er to appreciate it or whatever. No. I think the kids can appreciate it. Take 3, just fine. I'm sure it's going to be on home release at some point. Pick it up if you missed it in theaters. I hope you saw it in theaters, if you saw it on Disney XD. But yeah, so. Yeah,
hopefully we didn't ruin the whole thing for you.
No, spoilers, I hope you didn't watch this and didn't see it, because what's wrong with you?
But I want to add something, because I think what the movie appeals to, like you and I specifically, is because both of us have been with Pokemon since the very beginning,
Sure.
and we stuck with the franchise. And the reason we stuck with the franchise is because we're always excited to see new things.
Yeah.
We like seeing new Pokemon and playing new games, all these new adventures. And I know you and I liked the new the island trials, the challenges with the kahunas instead of the gyms. Like, I was not afraid of that. I was like, that's really cool. I'm going to try this whole new experience. And with this movie, it's a new interpretation of
what you may or may not know already.
Yeah. So, I think that it appeals to people like us, and it makes sense why they kind of went with something like this.
Yeah.
So,
actually, that is a good point too. I think that because I think about that. There were definitely certain points, I think, like even for me, like I never like fully left Pokemon, but like there was definitely a point in I think around like mid Gen 3, beginning of Gen 4, where like I fell out of it a bit because I wasn't playing the games, I wasn't watching the show, I wasn't keeping up with it as extensively as I continued to be after that point. Because then Heart Gold and Soul Silver got me kind of back into it. But even then, I was still with it all the way. But a lot of people like fell out of Pokemon and then jumped back into it again with even the last like few iterations. Like people have jumped back in with X and Y or Sun and Moon or even Black and White, etc. But I think that definitely, if you have stuck with Pokemon since the beginning, like if you're an old school fan, but like you never stopped loving Pokemon, I think that there's a good chance that you'll have a lot of appreciation for this movie. So
exactly.
Yes. And on that note, we're gonna end it. So Amy, thanks for joining for the first of possibly more than one Pokecember Kirblog you will be on.
We'll see. Mayhaps.
But with that said, if you saw the movie, and please, I hope to God you didn't listen to this if you haven't. If you saw the movie, whether it was in theaters or when you caught it on Disney XD when it ran recently, what were your thoughts? Did you have any particular favorite scenes? What were your thoughts on the elements that it may have been a little bit on the controversial side, I guess, or if you can, again, I put heavy quotation marks around that. Were there any moments that made you laugh, that made you cry, etc.? Let us know in the comments below. By the way, also, I'm going to be shameful, but I don't give a shit. Shout outs to Lisa Ortiz, who is the voice director for the movie, and she's been directing the series for the last year and a half, 2 years or so. I happened to see her while I was in New York, and I gave her many compliments about how the film turned out, because I think they worked very, very hard in the dub. And so major shout outs to her and all the voice cast and everybody who got to work on it. And but if you have any future Kirblog topic suggestions, Pokemon related or otherwise, leave a comment below. Mayhaps we'll do one of them this month. We'll see. And in the meantime, we will see you around. So have a lovely December, a lovely Pokecember. Hope you're continuing to play Ultra out there, etc. And we'll see you on the next one. Bye.
Bye.